off?
I'm on a iPad, yeah.
Okay.
Also, it's very difficult to do that.
Okay,
Okay.
Prashant,
Okay,
can you?
much better.
Much better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Perfect.
We are
Perfect.
live. We are live.
No, not yet. We will be live in about a minute. Prashant, please make it live on all social handles.
Are we switching off our cameras?
We are live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special show that we put together today for a dear friend from down under, from Sydney, Shantha De Silva. Who doesn't know Shantha De Silva in India? He's a friend of India and India is his friend. There are times when we have to step away from commerce and do a lot more than we do in our day-to-day lives by holding hands. Here, I'm delighted to speech to introduce the literary effort of Shantha, from a hotelier to a consultant and now an author. Who doesn't know Shantha? Shantha is a fan of India. Like I said, he holds a special place in his heart. He's headed ISG Southwest Asia from 2014 to 2017. That's not too long ago. He oversaw the doubling of the ISG portfolio in India. And he transformed the region to be amongst one of the globe top performers for 3 consecutive years. He guided ISG to a top 10 in great places to work with in India. And also, Shantha is a dear friend of BW Hotelier and BW Businessworld. And he will share some insights on his book. And also we shall have a panel discussion. Before that, we shall have a book inaugurations at the hand of our chairman, Dr. Anurag Batra. This is a special occasion. It will only be befitting that the entire fraternity comes together today and encourages and supports this wonderful effort by Shantha. Over to you, Shantha. Where are you? Hi, Shantha.
Hi, Anurag. Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice introduction. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the launch of my book. I'm really pleased that all of you were able to join me and us. A special thanks to Dr. Batra and the panel. I'm delighted in this august company of this esteemed panel, colleagues and industry veterans and leaders I've known over the years. Thank you for joining today. I have been associated with BW Hotelier and BW Businessworld throughout my time in India, and even after that, and always enjoy the great events, the panel discussions, and the content they present. And they've had a great impetus. They've been a great impetus to the industry. So kudos to Dr. Batra and Bhuvanesh and his team for what they've done. Born and bred in Sri Lanka, I have a very close affinity towards India, and India holds a special place in my heart even to date. And like Anurag said, I had the ability to lead ISG in India, which is some of my fondest memories of my career. And some of the greatest times that I've had, both myself and the team and ISG. We've achieved many things, but most importantly, we achieved success as a great team. And we managed to go from importing best practices to exporting best practices, which was a great tribute to the talent of the team. And 2 things stand out for me as contributing to the success that we achieved. Firstly, we put our heart and soul into everything we did, but we also had fun doing it. So we enjoyed it and it didn't seem like work at all. But more importantly, we believed. We believed in a vision and we believed in possibilities, no matter what. And that's what helped us drive the region to great success. I know many of my colleagues from that time are on this call, and a call out to all of you to the great times and how you made it possible. That brings me to the topic of my book, which is Believe, helping leaders unlock their true potential. As a child, I grew up in a home where my father was an author. I was surrounded by libraries and books and academics, and always nurtured a dream to write a book one day. I didn't know what, I didn't know when, and I didn't know how, but I knew I wanted to do it. And as years went by, it dawned on me that I wanted to share the stories of my success, the inspirations I've had, the learnings I've had, the experiences I've had, going from a trainee earning 600 rupees a month to leading a region of over 100 hotels. And my mantra was that if I could do it, anyone could do it. And it was up to me to share those stories with others so that they can get inspired too. And trying to find the best way to do this led me to creating the model BELIEVE, which every letter of the word BELIEVE stands for a step leaders can take to realize their own potential. The idea was not only to inspire leaders, but also to give them something practical and simple to implement that they can realize their own potential and their own dreams. So again, with the book, there was a great example of my belief, because you may have heard of Marshall Goldsmith, who is known as the #1 leadership thinker in the world many times over and a well-known author. And I reached out to him and I said, I want you to review my book. And I believed that he would do it, and I believed in the possibility. And in the end, not only did he review my book, he also endorsed the book. And my mantra remains that if I could do it, anyone could do it. And it's about believing in your potential and believing in possibilities so that you can achieve success like many others have. And if this book can bring an iota of inspiration to any leader to become a better leader, or to get closer to their dream or goal or vision, that would give me great pleasure. I just want to share one more story about belief that is turned into a personal mantra for me. And that's about a gentleman called James Stockdale. He was an admiral in the US. He was the highest ranking US officer to be imprisoned in Vietnam during the Vietnam War at the famous Hanoi Hilton. You may have heard of him. He spent 7 years being brutally tortured in Vietnam with no idea if or when he would go home again. And he attributes his survival to his ability to blend hard pragmatism with an unwavering hope and belief for the future. He says, I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into a defining event of my life, which in retrospect, he says he would never trade. And he believed that there was a possibility while facing the reality. And that gave me great inspiration throughout my career. And that relates back to my foundation of belief as well. And on that note of belief, Bhuvanesh, may I hand over back to you?
Thank you, Shantha. We shall now welcome Dr. Batra. So we shall now get into the formal part of the show. There are two parts. One, of course, is the unveiling and the launch of Believe, right? And the other part is the panel discussion. Before I get into the panel discussion, it would only be befitting for me to introduce the 5 large personalities over here. Dr. Anurag Batra, our chairman and editor-in-chief of the Businessworld Group. He's a serial entrepreneur, a media mogul, a journalist, and an eternal optimist, more than an optimist, ask me. At times I tell him to just tone down, but let's go. I mean, never is there a day when he is not positive. I'm down in the dumps and he said, listen, hold on tight, I'm there for you. All rolled into one. He's been a mentor to many successful entrepreneurs. Dr. Batra is a man of many talents and someone who adorns many hats. He's also an author, Shantha, right? And many times over, a TV show host and the founder of the iconic Exchange for Media Group. And now, of course, since 2013 September, the chairman of the Businessworld Group. Son of academics who migrated from Pakistan. He is a first-generation entrepreneur. Next, somebody I really look up to, I look up to all of you, but my elder, Mr. KB Kachru, perhaps the senior most hotelier in India today, an industry veteran. He's the chairman emeritus and principal advisor for South Asia for the Radisson Hotel Group, with over 40 years of leadership experience behind him, both in the public and private sector. Mr. Kachru serves on the boards of various organizations and bodies. He advises various government, tourism, and industry bodies, such as the CII, the Jammu and Kashmir Tourism, Skill India, amongst many other prestigious organizations. He's also the vice president of the industry body, the HAI, as we call it, the Hotel Association of India. Welcome, Mr. Kachru.
Thank you.
My good friend, Mandeep Lamba. Mandeep, again, is a veteran hotelier. He's the president, South Asia for HVS Anarok. He today logs in from Chandigarh, where he's traveling on work. Welcome, Mandeep.
Thank you so much, Bhuvnesh.
Mandeep is a hospitality professional with an established leadership track record of over 35 years in various roles with international leading organizations, including 17 years in the position of a CEO. He is a member of the Tourism Council of CII for Northern India and a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, UK. Mandeep's current role at HVS involves advising investors on their hospitality-related growth and the acquisition strategies, working with hotel owners and operators on asset management, on raising debt and equity, consulting on feasibility, valuations, market studies, and participating in HVS's executive search for hospitality and real estate leadership positions. Right. Yeah, happy to have you, Mandeep, on show.
Thank you once again, Bhuvnesh.
I go to my next friend, Dilip Puri. Who doesn't know Dilip Puri? You know Starwood, you know Dilip Puri, an Air Force fighter pilot's son, bright man, very articulate, very quiet. Now into academics, he's doing great work for the hospitality industry. Dilip is today the CEO for the Indian School of Hospitality. With over 3 decades of experience in the hospitality industry, he's worked with brands such as the Oberoi's, Taj, IHG, if I may, and of course, Starwood in India, Australia, and Africa. Dilip has served as the managing director of Starwood Hotels and Resorts South Asia from 2011 to 2017. Well, almost the same period as Shantha, 2017, when he set out to be an education entrepreneur and he founded the ISH. It's the top end and one of the most premier hospitality education institutions in India today. He's recognized as one of the thought leaders on hospitality and hospitality education, and is a frequent speaker at various industry conclaves. Also, he's been a regular columnist in some leading publications. Dilip also handled the data processing for the Indian Hospitality Summit and Awards, the BW Hotelier in EHA last year. Welcome, Dilip. And now I bring in my younger brother, my good friend, somebody I'll look nose to nose, right? Rahul Pandit, the former managing director and CEO of Hampstead Living. He was also the president of Lemon Tree. He is also the member of the CII National Committee on Tourism. Rahul is young, he is happening, and he's somebody with a lot of ideas. He comes with a lot of freshness, with no baggage to carry, brings great perspective to whatever he is given as a task to deliver. Rahul was a founding team member and president and executive director of the Lemon Tree Hotels. He subsequently led the growth and performance turnaround at Tata Group's Ginger Hotels as its MD and CEO. Also, Rahul has worked and trained across India, the US, Singapore with Choice Hotels, Taj Hotels, and the Intercontinental Hotels. Today, Rahul logs in from Mumbai, where he is with his family now. Right. Welcome to the show, Rahul.
Thank you, Bhuvnesh.
With a brief introduction that we've had for all the luminaries on the show today, let us get on with the good task of unveiling Shantha's effort. Dr. Batra will do it. Dr. Batra, let me hand over to you for some words that you'd like to say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khanna. Mr. Khanna is like my older brother. He's older, and 2 weeks back, he was at my home, and I had my parents at my home, and we had one of the most relaxed evenings, and he was regaling my father was 82, and sometimes very reticent about Pakistan, Multan, and one of the things about Mr. Khanna, he does whatever he does with the land and passion, and clearly in the last 2 years, he's been able to take BW Hotelier to another level. He clearly believes that the future is better than today. But today we are here because of Mr. Shantha De Silva. So congratulations to you, Mr. De Silva. And I'm very upset with you. And I'm saying it in a joking way. I have to tell you a short story. One, I get at least 2 books a day from people who've written books. I buy 50 of my books. And Mr. Kachru, good to see you. Good evening, Mr. Singh. Good to see you. Mr. Puri, good to see you. Rahul, good to see you. And my colleagues at BW Businessworld. I get at least 2 books a day, at least. And I buy another 30, 40 in a week myself. And if Mr. Khanna has been to my home, my living room and my study, I have books and books and books. I can hide behind them. That I can tell you, when I got the mail first time about your book and got to know about the name, I smiled. I was happy because I must tell you, 3 years back, a broadcaster approached me to do a daily show on an English news channel. And we even shot 2-3 episodes with leading industrialists, top 10 industrialists. And the show was called Believe. So I believe whatever you believe in happens. So clearly that's why I said, but belief belongs to everyone in the world, and belief can be anyone's. So congratulations on your book. Now, the reason I mentioned I get 2 books is your book is among the 2 best package. If I went to a bookstore and I saw your book in the shelves, I'd pick it up. The 3 best, I would say. One is Indira Nui's book, because she sent me an advance copy about 2 months back. It gets launched on the 27th September. Your book, and I recently read a book called The Attention Factory by Matthew Brennan. This is a book about the founder of TikTok. It's a story of Mr. Yiming, who is the founder of TikTok, and the story of TikTok and China in some way. These 3 covers, and I would say maybe 4th, Atomic Habits. Very clean, very yours is a dark cover, as in, dark not in its content, but so it's very well done. Now let me get into the contents of the book. As you rightly said, this book is to let leaders discover their best and realize their potential. And there's a saying that anything that you believe you can do, you can create that. It's a saying, it sounds cliche, but whatever we can visualize and whatever we believe in. I mean, BW Hotelier was an idea 7 years back. 6.5 years back, Mr. Khanna joined it. 7. Okay. No, but we launched it on 12th Jan 2015. So it's 6.5 years, and you joined more like 7 years back, right? I could be off here and there, but today it is a reality, and we still have done 10% of what we believe. So I really believe whatever you believe in happens. You believed in that you could write a book that would impact leaders, and they could learn from their journey, and your interesting anecdotes in the book. So I'm sure it will be not only helpful to people in the professional domain, to CEOs, CXOs, entrepreneurs, but it will also be valuable to students. And the age of entrepreneurship is coming down. Entrepreneurs are also leaders. I meet young entrepreneurs who already did 50 million at 22. So really, I'm sure it will help them become the best versions of them. I don't want to stay between the leaders of the hospitality industry. Mr. Kachru, Mr. Puri, Mr. Singh, and my friend Rahul. And Rahul, thank you for sending those articles. Keep them coming because they come from you. I definitely read them. And both from, they are leaders who have lived multiple lives, achieved multiple things in their life. But one thing that is common amongst all the people on the panel, including Mr. Khanna, is they've created other leaders. I think BELI is about creating leaders. When I read it, that's the thought that came to me. So my congratulations. And I was supposed to bring the book to the office. I came at 9 a.m. to the office. I'm still in the office. And it's my second day physically in the office. So I forgot. So I apologize for that. It will come here by 5:45. And I hope I can show it on the screen. I don't want to stand between you and the other leaders. Congratulations from us at BW Businessworld and BW Hotelier. And we not only reviewed in BW Hotelier, but also in BW Businessworld. It's a book that's on its own merit, needs to be taken to a wider audience. And I'm sure it'll be a bestseller. I have my own favorite stories from the book, but during the panel discussion, we look forward to your favorite stories from the book. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mr. Khanna.
And thank you, Dr. Batra. Can we have the honors? Let's get the video on and then let's start the ceremony. So the beauty about the book Shantha is not just the content which Dr. Batra spoke. I mean, it's the way you present it. Can we bring up the book, everybody? So I have this special one. I'm going to show it in the box, right? So, all right. There you go. Salman, can we get the book? Can we get the screens, please? All right. So this is how it goes. Beautifully packed, amazingly presented. And of course, let's hold the book up. All right. So there it is. Amazing book. What a beautiful book. Amazingly presented. What amazing packaging. If one was to fall in love with it without reading it, you will. Yeah. Thank you. There goes. Yeah. Congratulations, Shantha.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Shantha, any words from you?
I can't think of a better August panel than this to launch the book with. And Dr. Batra, thank you for your kind words. Like I said, it's been a dream, and I knew I was going to do it, but I didn't know it was going to come out this way. So I'm really pleased how it has come out. But it's also about pushing boundaries and believing in possibilities that got me to where I am. And even with the book, this box has amazing stories of how many different people went through to get this done in different countries as well. And finally, I got the final version. So it's all about possibilities, and I'm really thrilled the way it has come out. And more importantly, I wish that everybody would like the content as much as well.
So Shantha, tell us the first country it was launched in. Sri Lanka or Australia?
This is the first official book launch I'm doing.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, we're on it.
Yeah. The book is available in other countries, but the official launch, this is the first one.
Oh, excellent. We're happy to be able to do that. Yeah.
I had great partners, so I thought that's the place to launch it first.
Yeah. So now let us get into the panel for which we've all gathered here after the launch. Our industry has been through good times, bad times, but very, very tough last 2 years. We came out We went down again, but seems we are getting back on our feet, and this one's for stay. So we're staying there firmly. And I don't personally, my personal belief, people may disagree with me, the third wave is overstated. But yes, it's always nice to be careful. But we're not doing too much except coming back. We're all traveling. Mandeep is not here. I've traveled. Dr. Batra has not traveled. Kachur Saab is not. I don't know whether Dilip has traveled or not. Dilip, did you travel? No. Rahul has. Of course, he's gone back home. Permit me to start with Mr. Kachru. Kachru Saab, being a veteran in the industry, what changes or paradigm shifts in leadership have you observed over the years?
Thanks, Bhunesh, and thank you, Mr. Batra, and my friends. I think there couldn't have been a better opportunity for all of us to get together to do this. I think it's
sorry,
really
you guys. I skipped. You guys had to say a few words about Shantha's book.
No,
So
I'll be happy, and I'm sure each one of us has a story. I actually don't really know Shantha that much, I must confess, but I have really heard a lot about him. Anybody I have spoken to in the industry has really enjoyed working with him. You know why? Primarily, they consider him a role model who focuses so much of his time on mentoring people. I think that's what is required in our industry more than anywhere else. His team agenda comes before self. And I think he needs to be complimented, commended for what he has done. His mentees always appreciated the efforts he puts in, not only to improve them. The difference here is, Bhunesh, he actually looks at opportunities, what I have heard. He looks at opportunities, how he can improve himself at that time. I mean, isn't this commendable of what he has done? And, one of his mentees, Nivesh, who has been part of helping him out, I think one message which is very clear in this book is believe in your own experiences. I started reading the book, I got engrossed into it, and one loves how he has guided everybody to unlock their own potential. This is what is important. Unless you believe in yourself, you really can't do it. In one of the chapters, if I remember correctly, he said, look into the mirror and learn to appreciate yourself. That's what only an optimist can do, only a person who believes in himself can do, and who believes he can make a difference. And he has actually made that difference. As he said, he started with 600 rupees, $5 he mentions in his book, and managed properties over $1 billion. I think this is commendable. I think, Shantha, you have been an asset, you will be an asset for the industry all the time. So don't think you have stepped back. You aren't there. You can still contribute a lot to the industry. Now, coming back, Bhunesh, what you said, our industry in the last 2 decades, Bhunesh has seen a paradigm shift, primarily because of ever-evolving consumer behavior and impact of technology in our lives. I mean, that's actually made the difference. It has changed the way hoteliers conduct business now. That's one of the main shift. Few years back, I wouldn't say all, but most of us work more in a controlled manner. I've been hanging around here for quite some time, and I can tell you, we were primarily task-oriented. I think the approach has changed for better to a more collaborative approach, which I think is very, very good for fostering teamwork, productivity, innovation, and above all, creativity. Business environment, Boresh, has transformed how leadership is actually. And let me correct myself, it's just not actually. It's how it's also perceived. So you have to now learn to balance between and make yourself more acceptable. Fundamentally, qualities of effective leaders haven't really changed, and they will never change. It's just the commercial environment, I agree with you, that has changed so radically that we have to adapt how we lead in order to keep pace with things. Leaders should be now be able to dirty their own hands. Unless they do it, they'll not be accepted as leaders. A noteworthy aspect of leadership that has seen prominence in today's time, besides the shift from hard leadership skills to soft leadership skills. Bonesh, that would be my primary shift, which I feel. I'm leaving aside, if I take into account pandemic changes 80%, but overall, the last 2 decades have seen this paradigm shift.
Thank you, Mr. Kachru. That was very insightful, very valuable. And I think these nuggets of wisdom coming from you as the elder statesman of the industry shall stay with the generations that are now and coming. I shall, Mandeep, direct at you. With the backdrop of the last 2 years, and given your extensive journey as a renowned management consultant, and of course, a hotelier of great stock, what qualities, according to you, are necessary for the leaders who are coming tomorrow?
Thanks, Bhuvnesh. Leaders have different attributes, and leaders are different. If you look at some of the common characteristics with leaders, vision, passion, integrity are given features for good leaders. But if I was to pick 3 today, which to me would be a sort of significant for a good leader, I think amongst the first one would be the ability to sort of embrace change. We live in a world where everything is changing so rapidly that if you're not able to embrace change, then it's going to be difficult for a leader to be able to last very long. I think there's a classic example of Kodak, which even Shantha refers, I think in chapter 1 of his book, on how very few people know that the first digital camera was made by a Kodak engineer. And obviously the leadership at that time didn't believe that this product, which was going to disrupt their entire business model, was anything they should take seriously. And look what happened to Kodak as history is written on the corporate world. The second, I think, is communication. I think leaders must be great communicators. And when I say communicator, I don't necessarily mean a great orator, but somebody who has the ability and the belief that sharing information is very, very important if you have to grow the company. It has to be an environment where there is free flow of communication both ways, from the leader to the others and from the team up to the leader, both in terms of feedback, both ways, in terms of very clear articulating the goals of the company and the ability to sort of carry people, along. I think it's very, very important on how a leader must be able to speak freely and allow others to speak freely as well. I think there is one sort of example which I picked up from the book, which is about a former Ford CEO, Alan Mulally, where, when he joined Ford, he was asked, which car do you drive? And he said, I drive the Lexus. It's the world's finest car. And he was able to say that in a town hall with all Fiat workers, because that's what he believed that, and he wanted to communicate that what Ford was manufacturing was probably not the best in the world, and there was a distance that we had to travel. So communication is very important, to be able to be transparent and share the vision, be able to communicate, talk to everybody, carrying people along, and keeping them well informed and keeping yourself well informed by the feedback you get from the team is very important. And I think the third one, if I have to pick, is basically nurturing and building teams. I think if you can't nurture your people, if you can't be a people's person, if you can't be developing the people who work for you and being able to look at how they will become future leaders, I think that is very, very critical. If you really look at the sense of the book, it is Shantha trying to share and nurture others through his journey on how they could become better leaders. I think he also mentioned Jan Smith, one of his leaders, who was very inspirational for him, and how his belief was that you need to develop your people along with yourself if you have to find success. So I think nurturing and sort of building teams would be the third feature. These would be my top three, which I pick.
Very well said, Mandeep. Taking from what you just said, actually, we all grew up that way, didn't we? And it was earlier our parents, the earliest ones to mentor us were our parents, then our educationists, then our co-mates in school, then of course our wives, and now our children. I think we're only going to be able to bring in the next generations if we are able to handle the baton well. So it's just about handing a well-oiled baton to somebody which can last, right? So through generations that has happened. I shall move to Dilip. Dilip, now, of course, my questions are going to be to Dilip, not just as a hotelier or former hotelier, but as an educationist. He's now somebody who's almost got 4 years, Dilip, behind you now? In the 4th year, yeah, right? Having set up IHS, right, the ISH, the predicament that has been faced by the hospitality industry during the pandemic, it has impacted interest in students who wanted to pursue the hotel management stream. How do we cross that line? You see, if one was to see life today, it's a fine pencil line, and today is just about a dot. This will be long gone and forgotten. But kids from these 2 or 3 years should not take wrong decisions and not opt for hotel management. That is critical, because this is a great industry. You guys are living examples of where this industry has led talent to the top slots.
Shantha, congratulations. I think people have spoken about how well packaged the book is, but I have spent the last few days going through the book in a fair amount of detail. And I'm so impressed with not just the content, but the way in which you've structured the book, because it makes it very easy to understand, imbibe whatever you've written. You know, sometimes great authors try and overcomplicate their messaging. I think you've kept it in a structure in which it's very easy to understand and imbibe. And that's probably of great interest to me, because I read the book, and for me now, the lessons in the book, while your title talks about lessons for leadership, my own sense is that these are lessons which are as relevant to young students. I think Dr. Batra made that comment earlier as well. And when I think about the changes in education, in higher education, as a consequence of the pandemic, perhaps, but even otherwise, and what needs to change in that, lessons in your book are the kind of mindsets young students must imbibe at the start of their career. Psychology tells you that it is between the ages of 18 to 25 when the maximum mental maturity comes in young people. They might physically grow to their maximum extent by 2021, but the true development of the brain and who you finally are happens in these formative years. My own mantra with young people has always been to try and help them become the best version of themselves. And if they are able to understand, imbibe some of the lessons which you put in this book, imagine how well prepared they are to meet the challenges of the future. When the question is asked about what's going to happen to hospitality jobs in the future, which is what Bhuvnesh was asking, and our students in a predicament about this, firstly, no, they're not. I think people are smart enough to recognize that for young people, this is perhaps the best time to be in college, because you have a ringside view of these monumental changes taking place. This complete shift, and Mr. Kachu referred to it as well, into how leaders have to think in a post-pandemic world. For me, this is like a gold mine, right? It's a treasure trove of knowledge, understanding, which already I can tell you, I have put together a smaller team in college to look at the book and pull out some of the major lessons, learnings from this, in a way in which we can adapt them into some of the modules, whether they are on communications, on leadership, and all those things. So to me, that's kind of, one of the greatest things about the book. And personally, I think while the book may be very inspiring, to be a better leader, and we all learn every day, but for me personally, I think your book has inspired me to finally try and write a book myself. I think all of us at some point in our lives, careers, always have this aspiration ki mujhe bhi kitab likhni hai. And honestly, I clearly have. I mean, having gone into education, it's constantly on my mind. But I think your book is truly inspired me personally to now try and put pen to paper to, and you're going to be a hard act to follow, but it is very inspiring. And all the lessons, I mean, there's so many things. You make references to the Sweet 16, and you talk about how some people at that age became and did what they did because they believed, whether it was Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or Sachin Tendulkar, and you refer to a lot of people at that point in time. And I again think back to my young students and saying that, that age of 18, when they come to start their higher education with me, if I can make their minds pivot to understanding these, how do you seek validation, or how do you leverage your strengths and all the things, how do you deal with failures? These are not lessons just for leaders. I mean, leaders won't need these lessons if they've learned them in their formative years of education, right? Then it's a mindset which they imbibe and practice. I think so many things from your book will help me certainly try and share more of these with our students. So wonderful and amazing. So impressed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to your book too.
I will seek your guidance when I start writing it.
Yep.
For sure.
Thank you, Dilip. Rahul, after you said a few words about the book, I'd really want to know what has been your approach to identify and develop talent, because you've done it across 3 of the top brands. And of course, now your last assignment. You're muted. Unmute. Rahul, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, BW, Dr. Batra and Bhuvnesh for facilitating this platform. And Shantha, this is wonderful because to me, it's like scoring a hat trick, because what you did in Singapore and then the act to follow on in India. And after that, to see you in this new avatar is wonderful. And writing a book like this actually calls for lots of courage and commitment, because the humility that you have, that you carry in my interactions with you, that was one thing I was, always left touched by or impressed by. And actually reading the book, I have understood that it's actually a genetic gift to you, given the fact that, you come from a family of priests. And writing a book is actually a brilliant endeavor in giving back. So thank you, because this will help enrich many people, both personally and professionally. And Bhuvnesh, when I was reading the book, 3 messages stood out to me very clearly. One was, what is the foundational message of the book? Second is, how should this philosophy be interpreted? And third was, how should it be put in action? So I was reading the biblical story of Peter walking on water. And I was trying to figure out, was Shantha putting himself at Jesus's feet, or was he trying to be Peter? Because in chapters, I saw that reflected. And when Mr. Kachu was speaking of collaboration and soft skills that leaders need to have, it cannot be if they do not have belief in themselves. Because only a leader who is secure in his or her own grounding can provide a safety net for his people to fail. So when a leader reaches that belief system where he says, I have belief and I convey that trust to you, whether it's a biblical fable or whether we see it everyday life, to me, that was a brilliant foundational message. And then looking at the pandemic and what's been happening, when Shantha wrote about the Stockdale paradox, and I was reading, it led me to read about, Commander James Stockdale, who later became the Vice Admiral of the US Navy. His entire approach to saying, how do you balance realism and optimism in a dire situation? So when Mandeep said we have to embrace change, yes, we cannot ignore the reality that yes, we have a pandemic ongoing, but in this, how do we drive enough optimism? And the third and the key anchor message to me has been a message of metamorphosis. So Shantha introduced a statement by Oprah where she says that you have to create the grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe. And I was hearing Dilip say that he wants to ensure that people become the best version of themselves. And I can see this metamorphosis already taking place because I think Dilip's dormant author has already arisen. And the resolve that he's now made to put pen to paper. Look, if this belief system can touch somebody and bring out dormant energies like this, this is wonderful. So Shantha, thank you once again. And Bhuvnesh, you said, what's been my guiding philosophy while recruiting? It's actually just been very simple. That while recruiting, let's just look for attitude, because skills is something that we will train for. So everything else being equal, if the attitude is right, meaning if the ground is fertile, then it is left to the farmer that whatever seeds he puts in, they have to flower.
True. To an extent also, Rahul, what you guys did at Lemon Tree, where you also brought in, I should not say, I would say the better children of God, right? So almost 33% of them who would not have had opportunities anywhere. You gave them opportunity, right? That too is talent. They
No,
too,
Bhuvnesh, let me
they are
actually
gifted.
just hold you there, because once when we look at these initiatives, sometimes the halo kind of disrupts our thinking. In the beginning, what actually started off was, in some ways, one day Patu said, why can't we do this stuff like this? And I must tell you, I said we will run this as a beta in 3 hotels. This was Gurgaon, Goa, and I think Hyderabad. And I was surprised, for the first 3 months, there was no traction, even though we had a briefing with the GMs and all that. Because we realized that they were very hesitant in recruiting from this talent pool. Because we ran Lemon Tree on very tight staffing ratios. So they were thinking that, hey, would they be as productive as the other so-called able set? Then I said, okay, for the first year, these numbers are over and above your wage bill. And then those first 3 hotels took in. And then the big thing we realized was that the disability was on our side, because we couldn't speak their language. And then at Lemon Tree, we said people need to learn sign language. So how do you say thank you? How do you say good? Example, how do you say good evening? This is good. It's so easy to learn. And this is evening. This is the setting sun. Or for example, you want to say good morning. This is good. And morning. This is the rising sun. It's so simple. You want to say good afternoon. This is good. Afternoon. This is the blazing sun in the afternoon. So we realized that disability was on our side. And I must tell you, we were then thinking of, saying, how do we get visually impaired? So I met this gentleman who was 100% visually impaired. He comes on in and he's sitting with me. Then I asked him, his name was Shubham.
Shubham Arora.
Shubham Arora. So I
had a story with him. I have a story with him.
No, so I must tell you. So I had 2 EAs. So Shubham was one of my EAs. So he comes in and I ask him, I said, so what do you like? This is part of the interview process. So he says, sir, I like Salman Khan movies. Now I'm taken aback. I said, how do I ask him that? How does he enjoy a Salman movie? Because will it be insensitive? So I said, Shubham, what do you do? He said, sir, Salman's movie, first day, first show, I buy a ticket, I go to the theater and I enjoy it. So I said, look at this guy. Do I have to learn from him? Or, am I supposed to teach him? That was my learning. And this guy, I must tell you, Bhuvnesh, he turned out to be one of our best internet researchers. He used a program called JAWS, which would convert it into an auditory signal. And then later, he went also to the sales team and his portfolio became the embassies. This was the guy. And the first Braille menu at Lemon Tree got created courtesy this guy, because one day he said, we don't have a Braille menu. I said, I don't know how to, and he created it. Besides this, I think when we look at a diverse set, there is another advantage. See, India today has 21 million people who are disabled in some form or the other. And many people don't even report it in the census because it's considered, a social taboo. So while we are fighting for talent on one hand, and everybody is going to the same talent pool, there are these 21 million people that nobody is doing anything about. So even from a business perspective, if we speak about society stakeholder relationship or strengthening our responsibility, I think it's a brilliant quid pro quo. Because if organizations can go to these diverse talent pools, whether in India, we have an issue about gender, about ability, about social outlook, this will all come through to transform.
True. So Shubham used to call me up and chase me for everything. Till one day when I came to meet you, Patu and Ratan, he came to receive me at the reception, with his stick. And I said, I have to meet Shubham. And he used to respond to me in under 1 minute on mails and messages. He used to chase me for copies for everything. And I didn't know he was gift sighted, right?
Yes.
And I was told he never took company transport used to come on the metro.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So there are stories galore, and these are so motivating. Kachur Saab, I'm rounding back to you.
All yours.
So tell me, how many years? 50 years in the industry?
No, it's over 40. And I'm happy for that.
All right. So tell me, give us an insight into your path to success, and what are the mantras that you followed and you would want to share with the industry and with all wannabe hoteliers who want to get into the industry, students and the impressionable.
Since we are looking at what Shantha has created, I'll limit myself to around that. I think one of the key things which I think I managed to say for myself was believe in myself. I felt that we need to pursue a quality that leads to greatness. It cannot be left where it is. I think that has made my journey a little easier, simpler, and fruitful. Mandeep, Dilip, and Rahul, they all said one thing which was very clear, that you should be open to change. And I started with, I did my initial training in private sector, but ultimately took my first job with a public sector, which was coming up, and it was a great learning process. And I'm really proud that public sector has produced many CEOs, even in India. They are international, but even in India, the biggest chains are led by them. So we had this opportunity to learn. Now, I think one of the things which I tell myself and tell my colleagues, that you have to be future ready and market relevant. If you are not future ready, you're not market relevant, you will be marginalized. You have to learn to juggle roles. If you don't do that, it'll not work anymore. Successful businesses have to take decisive actions, particularly in an extremely fluid environment like it is today. I think you have to keep on changing your priorities, but be focused on your key objective, what your objective is. What I liked in his book was he came out through the book, and what his mentees or people who worked, colleagues, have always told me. He was one person who was very worried about numbers, but did not stop there. He was equally worried about their well-being. He was people's person. And I think in our business, if you are not people's person and are not ready to change, you have no place in the industry. I'm making it as hard as possible. You have no place. It's, yes, you have to strike a balance between leading from the heart while your head should remain focused. And that's what I have tried to do, Bunesh. And I'm grateful to the people who worked with me, my colleagues, my superiors, I have had the opportunity to work with great managers in both private and public sector. And I think what they taught me, I am trying to implement at every stage. And every day is a new day for me. And it is focused on what is required today, not what was required yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Kachru. Words coming from you, they echo and they will stay. They'll all be on recording. So I'm sure more people will be coming in and watching what you have said, what all of you have said. Before I go to Mandeep, I'm going to do that commercial thing over here. I'm going to make an announcement. Are you, Tanvi, Prerna, are you ready? I want to announce the new show. Are you ready with it? We are going to be announcing the new show. This is called the BW Hotelier, the GM show. It's all about leadership. It'll be coming soon. We will have, there's not one show, they're not two, they're not three, they're not 10, there are more than 10 shows. There are going to be all over India. And the very best GMs are going to be on show. We should be starting very soon. We'll be announcing the dates. And look out for this. Top GMs of India will be on show. The best talking minds, the best thinking minds. Yeah. So coming back to Mandeep. All right. Mandeep, I'll round up to you now. Tell me, how do leaders leverage upon co-creation with their employees? Mandeep? There you are.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Were you able to get the question?
Yes, I did. On co-creation. Wasn't that the question?
Yes.
Interesting subject. Bhuvnesh, on co-creation, I think this has been the mantra for a lot of successful companies. I think it started first with co-creating with customers and with the belief that, it's not just the company that is responsible for making the best product for the consumer, but it's also the customer who can play a part in deciding or contributing to what could be the best product for the customer. And I think we're now, the early companies to use it was Lego, very successful in that model. And I think we are carrying it forward. There's been a lot of research and a lot of papers published by Harvard and various other universities. And I think we're carrying it forward now to co-creating with employees as well. That it's not just, how we think that we need to treat our employees, but equally the employees must also have a seat on the table on how employees in an organization must be dealt with. And I think carrying employees into the co-creation ability, even while you're designing products, you're designing the policies of the organization, and of course largely on how employees must be dealt with. The hierarchies within organizations is part of the whole co-creation process. It's something that is now becoming fairly popular, and I think a step in the right direction. I think we need to use a lot more of that in our industry as well. As structures get leaner, as hierarchies within organizations, must become simpler, more flatter. We must have the ability to co-create, the environment of success with our employees as well. So I think a great area where a lot of work is being done, and I think a lot of work still needs to be done, but a great mantra for successful companies.
Thank you, Mandeep.
Just before I sign off, quickly, Shantha, a lot has been said about your book. But what I love about your book, as Dilip mentioned, and I think all the others did as well, including Mr. Kachru and Rahul, I think it's just so simply written. It gets you very engaged and it makes it, a can't put down kind of book because it's very engaging. And like Dilip said, there is no ability to complicate. There is no, intention to complicate it, by any jargon. or stuff that may sound very, very impressive. It's simple, it's easy to understand, and I think it'll have wide-reaching, a good spread of understanding, because people will relate to all of this. I know that I could with a lot of the stuff that I read in the book. So kudos to you. And I have to admit what Dilip said is that it all brought that whole thing about wanting to write that book and become an author.
There you are.
There you are. I have been doing this for a very long time. I was at another book launch for a very dear friend, Prakash Iyer, who's also an author, and he recently did a book saying, "How come nobody told me that?" Again, leadership, small anecdotes, and I keep saying that I must end writing a book, but it's not so simple. It all looks simple when you read books like Shantha has written in the simplistic way. It takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of doing. But it's just one of those things. I'm not sure whether I will end up writing it, but it's just that the book brought that out. That maybe I should also author something. But great work, Shantha. Kudos to you and all the very best.
I'm sure I'll see your book one day.
Their book.
Yeah, 2.
So, I mean, before the show finishes, perhaps there may be a third announcement. So, Dilip, a recently published article in Bloomberg highlighted that post-pandemic, our world curriculum could be more sustainable and holistic rather than adopting to conventional subjects. What do you say?
Agree with that statement more. And the fact of what I spoke about earlier, that we would look to adapt lessons from a recently launched book like Shantha's into our curriculums, modules, or some way of learning for students. The idea is to do that constantly and consistently. And you can only do that if you stay strongly engaged with the industry, with the understanding of what's happening and what changes are happening. Today, these changes happening are almost irreversible. How do you educate young students who otherwise thought of hospitality as a high-touch, low-tech business, and suddenly now they have to be trained, and employers are looking at them to say, do you understand what contactless is? Do you understand that you now need to deliver the same level of service without seeing your customer? Now, if you can build these changes as they are happening into your curriculum so that students can understand, experience them, I think that is the way of the future. So absolutely different aspects of curriculums have to change. It's a tragedy in country that curriculums are still so archaic and so old. My sense is, if anything else, this pandemic will almost force educational institutions to completely relook at the way in which they deliver learning, not just the contents of the curriculum, but how are today's learners wanting to learn. The days of the professor teaching and the student sitting there and listening are gone. And if we can change that approach, and that approach can be changed, at least with my experience in education, by actually trying to blend academic discipline and rigor with industry experience, knowledge, and expertise, right? It's only when you bring these two people together, these two kinds of people, and then you look at your content, you look at how you're going to deliver it, you look at how you can democratize the education through technology, through blending the learnings. I think as we begin to adapt all of these, we'll begin to see a much better talent pool coming out. I have said this several times, it is almost like a time bomb for the hotel industry. If we want to attract good talent, we have to change ourselves. Today, talent studying hospitality, many of them are saying we don't want to work in hotels. How do we go about changing that mindset? And to me, as an educator who comes from the industry, I think it's one of the biggest challenges for us to tell our students that hospitality remains a great opportunity, provided you can make them believe that hospitality as an industry, its leaders, the way it treats its employees also changes. And I think some of that is being brought out in the book as well. But these kind of changes are really required. Today, for example, almost every student coming in one way or the other says, "Mujhe entrepreneur banna hai." I mean, the young person probably can't even spell the word entrepreneur, but it is about, I want to be an entrepreneur, right? When I think about what can be a new mantra for management, I think instilling entrepreneurship within managers is key. If you look at what's happened in the last 2 years of the pandemic, the stories coming out from all of your organizations, the industry, is about how leaders, GMs, others came out, thought out of the box, did different things, and survived, right? If they didn't have that thinking, that entrepreneurial spirit and thinking, they wouldn't have been able to do this. Now, that was forced upon them. Imagine if you churn out talent which has that built in as a mindset. Doesn't matter, I want a corporate career, but I always want the mindset of thinking like an entrepreneur. That can only happen when curriculums and the ways in which you deliver learning to students make it much more experiential. All of that, I'm very optimistic that that's the way the industry is proceeding further. And I'd like to believe that over time, institutions like mine or others then become this common talent pool to retain the best talent for the hospitality industry. You don't want hospitality students going and working in retail and luxury and aviation and real estate, which are actually taking precedence over hotels and restaurants and culinary arts, right? We have to arrest that. And I think it is incumbent upon the industry to be able to do that.
Not just the industry, Dilip, I think the hospitality, travel and tourism is actually at the cusp of something much bigger. I mean, if you were to see, we are 1.3 billion of us, right? Even if we were to take our target TG, as we say, our target group at about 250, 300 million, right? Compare us with Bali, with Thailand, with Dubai, with Abu Dhabi. Where are we? I mean, if there was going to be an explosion in the number of hotels which are going to open, we surely will have to import talent. Dilip, you're saying something, can't hear you.
You're right. The problem is not about what's going to change. I think everybody knows. Will leadership in our industry adapt, embrace that change? Because if they remain the same, then the young talent going in is going to go out within a couple of years.
True.
Because they're not inspired by the leadership.
But Dilip, is there a choice? If I may say, is there a choice? I don't think there is a choice.
I agree with you, sir. I don't think there's a choice too, but leaders must change.
You know, our leaders have to learn to step into the shoes of, if you say, hospitality, staff, guests, and stakeholders. I think the issue is what is needed today, what do they want, and what can we do together with them? I think unless we induce this, it's not going to happen. I'm really happy and glad that you are thinking in that manner, and you will educate and you will produce talent who are, because it's a human want. What can you do? They want to really have that kind of thinking. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want, ultimately, they want to make more money. They want to have good standard. They want to make decisions. And that cannot happen if we don't change. I think we have no choice. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, they can also be entrepreneurs in their jobs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
we have to restructure the whole thing.
So we are only limited by our imagination, as they say. Rahul, I shall round off this session with you. I have to put my finger out on one out of the three that I have to ask you, right? So do you feel the need of apprenticeship models in the industry, or does the industry need the combination of academic learning followed by a full-time on-job experience?
See, Bhuvnesh, our industry, like all other industries, I think it's a two-tier business. At one level, it is the dispersion of uniform policies, culture, decision making, and wearing a common brand lens. And what makes hotels interesting or tough, example like the army, is that because we are so geographically spread, people have to have that ability and willingness to take on diversity, not only in geography, but in roles. So this sort of talent, yes, we will need, like other organizations or other industries, for it to have a fast track cadre, which will have a different intellectual rigor, and it has a different aspiration in life. Now, one thing that Dilip alluded to was, for example, people saying we want to be entrepreneurs. So how does the industry address that request? The other along with that is that because we are hospitality, and because lots of our business is grounded to a geography, a real estate, and essentially our business is to be able to serve others. So we will need a big service muscle. Now, this service muscle, as you very well know, running a hotel is actually like running a township. You'll need a plumber, you'll need an electrician, you'll need, somebody to serve in the restaurant, cook in the kitchens, clean and do so on and so forth. Now, if we were to propel everybody into, getting into a university and then saying you can do hotels, that's a waste of nation's time and talent. And that's not also the right return on investment for people like that. So there, especially for a country like us, apprenticeship becomes critical. Now, one change in the model that I see, which is already happening, and I see it reflected in US. So 18 months ago, Uber was letting go of its people, and that made very big news. And hey, 7 months ago, 8 months ago actually, Uber does the biggest IPO of US of last year, $100 billion market cap company. So what does it tell us? That the talent that we have held till now, ground to specific roles or geography, there is going to be Uberization of that talent. And along with that, the big opportunity for India is, how can we start exporting hospitality talent to the world? Because 40 or 50 years ago, if we were relying on Europeans to come on in, at least in Asia, to say, how should hospitality be? Because if we were aiming for that traveler and those standards, today two things have changed. Asia is on the rise. It's Asian values of saying, how do we deliver great quality, great price points, and very aspirational, and also to millennials which reside here. So if all of that is contained in our geography, how do we deliver that value to the world? So I think today it's become the time for Asia, and with India and China as the linchpin for this, there will be great opportunity in both these tracks. One, people pursuing, a full, undergrad education and further, who can then become key pivots to expand brand knowledge, awareness, concepts across, and then very strong apprenticeship programs. And I have also seen some state governments, and also in US, very interesting, that you don't have to be married to an industry to be an apprentice. So for example, you could be a lawyer during the day, but at night you could be serving at a bar. Whether you are doing it because it's your passion or you need another income. I have seen in Boston, getting served by somebody who's actually, an Harvard alumni. So all of these things coming together. And I think if we take this metamorphosis in our stride, we can actually rewrite how the industry should benefit from this accelerated impact of the pandemic.
So tell me, Avi, is this the content for the third book?
You never know.
So let me tell you about a Boston story. We have our own thing going on in Coimbatore, where you have Anna Lakshmi, where the top CEOs from across the industry go and serve.
No, I must tell you, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, you would be surprised, he's into music. And he plays as a DJ, and he goes by the name DJ Sol. So this is Sri Solomon himself, playing as a DJ. Now, is he doing it as a double income? No. He's in a mature economy because that's another part of his being that needs expression. So individuals will have varying needs. So instead of being very cadre bound, how do you allow expression? How do you allow sustenance? How do you allow a weaver to go in and say, I will also serve people, who are coming into, let's say, a Rajasthan? How do you allow somebody who's processing food stuff in Kashmir to say that the best Rogan Josh only I can make? So do I need to be a regular hotel chef? No. If you are in Kerala and you need to know how to learn swimming in 3 days, in 3 hours, the boatsmen of Kerala, what you will not learn in any landlocked city, you will do weeks. In 3 hours, they will teach you. So how do you get all of this learning together? That's
I must tell you, if this is not a great advertisement for Indian hospitality, what is? You guys are living models. If anybody is watching this show and making notes or coming back and watching the recording, you guys make the best advertisement for the industry, for the talent that this industry can take in, right? I must tell you, we must do more of this and take you to the impressionable, take you to the institutes, right? Dilip, of course, I'm sure we can do something special with ISH and bring leaders over there. I'm sure he keeps doing it, but we could do it on a larger virtual canvas. Having said that, we've much overshot our time, but then interesting chats do not always see time limits. Shantha, may I request you to do the honors of summing up the show?
Thank you. That was interesting discussion. And always when you have luminaries like we have on this panel, there's so much of thoughts and gems of wisdom coming out. It's very difficult to not ignore anything of that. But I think I love the conversation, but also I love that it's germinating ideas and also probably pointing towards more things that we can do with our talents and our learnings and our experiences. So hopefully this will lead to something even more in the future. To sum up a few things that I took away from today, we wanted to talk about leadership for tomorrow. And listening to all of you, there were a lot of things that came across as important things for leadership for tomorrow. From Mr. Kachru, I think one key message that came out was about collaborative leadership, which is really important in today's world because we can't work in silos and in isolation. And especially with the circumstances that we are faced with, that collaboration that leads to innovation, creativity, working together is critical. So I think for tomorrow's leaders, developing tomorrow's leaders, that collaboration is important. And then Mandeep spoke about the importance of embracing change. I think there's never a time like this to embrace change, right? What is today changes tomorrow. And the pace of change is amazing. And unless we are able to collaborate and embrace change as fast as it happens, we cannot be ahead of the game. So it's another very important lesson for leadership for tomorrow. And I think Dilip, true to his nature of nurturing talent, spoke about nurturing talent now, right? Not for later. That if you nurture leaders today, tomorrow they will be in a better position to be in that leadership position. And that's something that's really critical. And I think a lot of organizations need to take that on. And Dilip, you're in the best situation to do that with the people under your charge who come across. But I think that's the important element we sometimes forget. And that investment in nurturing talent today can pay off multiple times tomorrow. And that's important as well for the health and well-being of everyone and also the businesses. And then Rahul, as usual, had a lot of good ideas that he shared. I know he's well-read and has a lot of thinking that he likes to share. One thing I took out of it is about belief and attitude. I think that attitude in leaders is critical because that's what makes a leader. You can either take the attitude of a glass half full, or you can take attitude of a glass full or half empty. So I think it's about how you look at things, and it's your leadership attitude that will permeate through the organization. And if you as a leader stand up and show your belief, your positiveness, your communication skills, your collaborativeness, your adaptability to change, I think that's going to make us all better leaders. And to that plethora of ideas, if I may add one message from me, my message would be about the Stockdale paradox. I think we need to retain faith that will prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties. But what is important is that we need to face the brutal facts of the current reality. Because very often we believe in possibilities, but we don't face we don't accept what we face. If we accept what we face, and then at the same time have that faith that we can succeed, then we can build the journey towards that. And I think with all the gems of wisdom we heard from all of you, if we can believe that we can and will succeed, but also face the facts of the current reality, I think that will be a great foundation for us to build our own success and build the success of leaders for tomorrow. I think that's my summary of today's learnings. There's a lot more messages, but these would be, I think, the key messages that I would love to share.
Shantha, what is next?
Good question. I think a visit to India is definitely the next. I mean, actually, of all the places,
that was my next question.
Yeah, of all the places, I've been telling my wife the other day as well, I miss India, but I have another book in me, which I have been thinking about. But the time is what I need to create. But what I was thinking, and Dilip, to your point, my ambition was to create something for the younger generation, to develop them as leaders rather than later on in life. So hopefully maybe one day that will come true.
Oh, author Shantha, I mean, like with your experience, I'd be happy to do that and take some of the light.
Yeah. We should collaborate.
So good. So Girish Bindra, of course, has a few words for you in the chat box. Looking forward to seeing you here. All right. On that note, before I sign off, I must thank you, Kachur Saab. Thank you for sparing your time and for words of wisdom. Yeah, it's always happy to have you. We're always very happy to have you back here. Dilip, thank you for being here. Yeah, Mandeep, Rahul. We have a lot more planned over here. I've been chatting to some people. Some of you are aware of what we are planning. Of course, the GM show is the next thing that's on the immediate horizon. We have bigger things planned out and better things planned out for the industry. And thank you for being here. Thank you again on behalf of BW Businessworld and BW Hotelier. Thank you, Mandeep. Thank you, Dilip. Thank you, Kachur Saab, Rahul, and Bye-bye, Shantha. Must be late for you.
No, not at all.
Thank
Thank you,
everyone.
Bhunesh, for putting it together, and the team did a great job. So thank you, BW.
Yeah, of course. For words for the team, of course, the back end.
Yeah.
They have really, at a short notice, they've turned it around. Tanvi, Prerna Singh, Rachit, Salman, Ashi, Shivani, Akshi, Ajit, Saurabh, Prerna Lamba, Prashant, Prerna Singh, all of you. Thank you all. Ratnesh is not here. It's a great team at the back end. You make me happy because you do great work. Where we are today is all because of you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.